Nefio SIG2 meeting, February 14th, 2024. Good morning, everybody. So you can see the agenda. Wim, I think we can just jump right into how we plan R3, how we accept new work items, etc., and POCs. And also I added a little issue to discuss. So again, we'll see if we have time.
Yeah, so I thought the first thing, so I started, the reason I raised this topic was, okay, we have this user stories that are coming from SIG1, right? We are on Friday, we are reviewing some of that, and okay, so we are giving comments and so on. So the idea is that we as a team from SIG2 are reviewing and give a bit of a sense whether they are ready or not to proceed, right? So I personally have been looking at them. So I always asked, so there is a list that we are sharing from SIG1 of the items that are being reviewed. So first of all, I think the first thing that we have to do is have people comment and review those use cases, of course, if they are interested on them. So that's one. Then the thing why I somehow raised this topic was, okay, at some point, so there is a few use cases which I personally said, this is okay to go ahead, right? Now, what does that mean? And how do those people proceed? So one of the things that I was suggesting or thinking about is that from that use case, you basically build a set of deliverables that you are going to plan for R3 or for whatever release that you have. And I believe that the team we have to discuss how to do it, but one of the proposals that I was thinking of is to create issues for all of these deliverables. So we create like an epic story in our issue board, right? And then we, for each of the deliverables, we basically create an item. So that's one suggestion on that one. I don't know, because there is, besides the work coming from SIG1, there is the other side of work that's coming from other places. But I would like to, first of all, focus on that because there is quite active activity. And I think we have to agree on how we accept and follow up on those type of things from a SIG2 perspective. So that's, I don't know whether people have any comments, other suggestions, agree, disagree, whatever, right? So yeah, Vish.
Yeah, agree. Capturing this as work items. I think this might have been something we also probably discussed in R1 too. I mean, and I would even go to the extent of even like for examples like even for code reviews, right? I mean, because it takes time. Anything that takes time is a task.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
So
you need to have that closed loop here. Yeah.
Correct. So and then so one item is, okay, there is a set of so if I don't know whether other people agree. So, but my view is create an epic, create the issues. Or at least there are some people from SIG2 that have to see whether this is complete or not, right? So we have to somehow figure out whether, like you said, Vish, like code reviews, whatever testing, whatever things that has to be added or done, that we actually add those items in that. And then the other question is, does that happen in a distributed way? Do we somehow need to be a review on those use cases somehow? Does it happen in a distributed fashion? So there's a bunch of, let's say, discussion items here related to that. So the proposal so far is to create an epic and then sub issues for each of these tasks. And then then we have to see, okay, how do we follow up around that and stuff like that. So one is it complete? Do we agree on tracking it with issues? 3 is, we need to probably do a review, and then we need to follow up. maybe we should add these items. Should I edit? I'll edit on the fly, maybe in the document.
Vish, go ahead.
Yeah.
Or is your hand up from before?
Sorry, I'm already done.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Fikra?
Is there a documented process that should be followed? Has that not been defined?
I don't think so. Yeah, I believe it's not defined, but that's why I'm bringing it up. But yeah.
Okay. I thought usually the project would have it defined before user stories are.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a little for people who weren't in those meetings, the Friday meetings. The tone got a little bit contested in terms of, we're a little bit worried that, SIG 1's way of working is very waterfall-like, right? There's elaborating the use case as much as possible. So we have as much information as we can until we can say approve or deny it or provide feedback to improve it. So it'll be clear for us to implement. But there was concern that, how there's a lot there, right? A lot of content, a lot of big new use cases coming in, from ORAN and service assurance, and they'll involve a lot of work moving forward and work that we all recognize will not be able to make it, say, by R3, right? But there's also pressure for us not to be blocked, right? That as soon as something is ready, and this is kind of, I'm jumping maybe a bit to the next item of the agenda, how do we deal with POCs, right? Everybody is clear that, we don't have to wait for everything to be approved in order to start working, right? For example, observability, we're working on observability anyway, right? But we want observability to be use case driven, right? And look at, the specific requirements from service assurance and ORAN and work with that. So I think there's a necessity for SIG 1 and SIG 2 to be patient with each other, right? We need to be patient for SIG 1 to fully flesh things out. SIG 1 has to be patient with us to start actual work on these things. But I think the basic contract between us, the two SIGs, is that nothing should block progress, right? We don't have to wait for all the use cases to be approved, all the epics to be created, all the sub issues to be created before we start prioritizing and working, etc. Right? We don't want to work with a waterfall approach. And we also want to avoid the big crunch that we had in R1 and R2, where all these issues that we're gonna shoving to get released, say, in R3, right? So it should be ongoing work, but the key here, I think the non-blocking key is that we start with something, right? And that's something we're calling a POC. So whatever we have, even if it's incomplete, we can start working on something, and there'll be kind of a mutual feedback going on. So it's not like the use case is created and we accept it and we sign off on it and saying, okay, this is it. While we start working, we can definitely provide feedback back and say, look, we thought this is possible. It's actually unclear, it's ambiguous or impossible, or will take a lot more work. So the POC can give all of us information for, evolving that use case into something more realistic, right? Or breaking it up into milestones, etc. So, yeah, Wim, do you think I summarized that correctly?
Yeah. See, the challenge that we have, Tal, in my view, is this, right? So we asked those guys to build use cases. We made a formal document and all that stuff, right? So they did a lot of work, in my view. And now they want to go to the next phase, right? So what do we tell those people that how should they proceed? I think for me the question or the things that we are asking, and we should not block them. But yeah, so somehow we need to formalize this and make it clear on what we are doing and stuff like that, because otherwise everybody looks to everybody and nothing happens. So at the moment I feel or I sense that there's a bit of pressure from the SIG 1 group on us to help identify those things that have them move to the next phase. And it could be, I would suggest create issues for all the items that you are that you believe need to be done, right? And you can start working on it independently, right? And then the next question will be, okay, how do we? That comes to the point of how do we prioritize that then that work at some point to put it in release. But let's first discuss the first part, because otherwise it's too much problem. Yeah, and I see Liam has his hand raised. Go ahead, Liam.
Oh, sorry, Howard. I forgot to press the mute button. Yeah, we probably should take a first pass at each of the items that coming in from SIG 1 and maybe assign them an epic. And, take a first pass at maybe breaking them down into some sort of lower level, thing, into some phasing on each item, especially if it's very big. It depends. Maybe some of them are smaller. And then that process will probably take, we probably have to, take an hour or two on each one at least, and break it up down into sort of subtasks. And those subtasks, the epic doesn't have to be delivered in one kind of DEFIO release. We can split it out over numerous releases, or we can even do some of it very quickly and have, some things might be easy. There might be some foundation we can do that doesn't take very long, but that seems to, that we probably just need to, look at them. And then across, the use cases don't break down to features and functions and software. There could be things that we can do, there could be things that more than one use case need to be done, so there could be, I don't know, maybe, for example, manifest repositories might be something that we need to do for 2 or 3 use cases. So we'd spot those sorts of things that won't be clear from because as you know, the use cases don't map directly to, to the functions that you're and the module that you're going to have in your code. But I suppose we just have to start that process as soon as we can.
Yeah. Tal? I think, Tal, you're next.
I'm sorry, I was muted. My suggestion here is that we use this meeting for it. That is, we add it to the agenda for our meetings going forward, that we pick a use case that's more or less ready. And by that, I mean that there are 2 things. If the use case requires feedback, then we can present it here and get feedback from everybody. And if the use case is already ready, then we can actually use this meeting to kind of break it down together to topics, right? Because my concern is not everybody is there at those Friday meetings, and also those Friday meetings, there's just no time for us to discuss among ourselves, and it gets technical, and that's the wrong place. So I think this is exactly what this meeting is for. However, we have a lot of agenda items going forward. Maybe there could be a separate work group for us, a task force called like a use case task force, where we review it with a separate meeting. I don't know. Again, there are too many meetings, so perhaps this
is it not. If I may comment, Tal, so the fact that we organize the meeting in my view is the goal is to have a combination of SIG 1 and SIG 2, and of course you and myself and Bala, I think, are there most of the time. I think also to the people itself that do the use cases, there's no point in presenting to SIG 1 and SIG 2. I would propose to do it in one meeting somehow. If the meeting on Friday is not the right timing or whatever, then we should probably change it. Not because the fact that they present the use case is kind of, they want to get the, like, more or less, so what I sense is the approval or some feedback to go ahead. And what I'm doing personally at the moment, so they spend a lot of time preparing a document at the moment, which is awesome, right? So they do a lot of good work in my view. And some of them are more contentious than others. There is a number of them are very straightforward to do, right? So, but of course you need to break down them into the deliverables, right? So what I've been doing personally is I've gone through the use cases, put my comments in there and stuff like that, to the point that you almost can break it down to the items that needs to happen. Not probably to the full fine granularity, but at least to have a first pass. So what I'm trying to say is that if the meeting timing is not right, we should probably advocate moving it, but I would propose not to do another meeting yet for the use case, because also to the people, it means like you do a SIG1 and then a SIG2. It feels a bit odd if I'm right.
No, I agree with that. I would say that the feedback part should be on the Friday meeting, but the actual breaking down to tasks should be in our
Okay.
meeting, because I don't think they're
Yes.
interested in that. Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that. Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Sorry, Bala, you're next.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. So I wanted to chime in with a couple of points. So one is, like you said, how do we want to track these user stories? I assume you mean to say that, like that there is a user story definition from SIG architecture that's in their GitHub board, and then we are going to create our GitHub epics, stories, etc. for the execution, because we are all about execution here. So probably we can put a link, and then what I was thinking is we'll create an epic on our side for equivalent epic, and then under that we'll have multiple tasks for that story, and then we will link our epic to the user story created by SIG architecture, so that we can correlate between SIG architecture story versus our epic and our execution. So any point of time when anybody can go and see, these are the wish list of SIG architecture, this is how the execution is going on the SIG automation side. That's one thing. The other thing is, I was thinking, I think you like this, Wim. I think I'm also starting to think probably we should do this. So right now, if you look at the stories that is coming along from the SIG architecture side, they are very distinct in nature. For example, there is stories about service assurance, there is stories about ORAN enablement, and there is stories about SDK building. I think in the R1 group, we did the different groups focusing on different things. Probably going back to that model may be helpful, because how heterogeneous things are. I mean, I'm not suggesting I will have a single board and stuff. Obviously, we'll have a single board, but in terms of focus groups, and that focus group could involve people from SIG1, SIG2, SIG3, everyone for a particular task, for example, so that we can tackle it together. So that's another thing I was thinking, because otherwise, everybody doing everything may be a little bit thing, but we may have to have a little bit of focus. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah. Thanks, Bala. Yeah. Now, probably we have to, I guess, maybe do that's another discussion. Maybe we should document smallly what we are discussing here, so I can take a snap at it, so that we at least make it clear to SIG2 is how are we going to track, because I think it's also good to give them some feedback and guidance, right, on how we think how this will work, so that we give them a bit of like guidance that we take this serious. Yeah, Vish.
So the SIG ones, since they're coming up with some of these use cases, can we also, I don't want to burden them. Are they also on the hook for creating epics and acceptance criteria and all that stuff? I look to them as product management.
So
See,
they will create at that level. They will not create the epics and for the execution, which they will create really from a epic. They really create the stories from a product manager level, like you said.
Yeah.
But from a execution level, the internal epics and stories we had to create.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I think
I'm only
Bala,
trying to
depends.
get to leverage them, and also
we specifically asked them to keep it at that level, because otherwise a particular story will have like 10 tasks, right? For example, that probably for us to manage, right? So basically,
at least things like acceptance criteria. Okay.
Yeah, that they are doing. Yeah, if you see their epic template, actually I created the epic template.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So sorry, not the epic template, the SIG1 story template. Sorry.
Yeah, I remember.
It is acceptance criteria, stakeholders, what is in scope, what is not in scope. Everything is part of that.
Correct. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now what I was going to say is that there are so for example, Sagar is doing some of the user story, right? So he is breaking it down to a pretty deep level, right? So there are differences depending on the persons involved, because in a number of cases there are even SIG2 people involved in the user stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you have a mix of feedback, but I think personally, the epic should not come from them, right? Start with an epic from the people starting it, and then SIG2 need to review it, right? So once those epics are there, we need to, so at least there needs to be some people from our side that review and break down,
Yes,
if not done, right, in individual task, right?
absolutely. Yes, Phil. Yeah.
So that's, I think, what you said, Bella, right? So for us, it's important that we review that, and the more people have a view on that, because everybody has different perspective, the better, I think, right? At all.
Yes. Or we could even say that, a particular focus group is responsible for breaking down the stories. For example, if you make focus groups for ORAN, then that focus group will look at SIG1 stuff, break down into the tasks and epics that we want. The similar case with other things. I mean, we could do that as
well. Liam, yeah, next.
Yeah, just on the epics from SIG1, maybe in most cases it'll work like that, but in the case where, say, more than one epic from SIG1 is covered by an epic with us, where we have to do, say, some architecture work in the platform or something, it mightn't all. So maybe we just see how it pans out on that.
I would suggest, Liam, that if there is, let's say, a subsequent, let's say, big task that is relevant on it, I would advocate to make it another epic then, which you're linking to each other somehow, right?
Yeah, and you could have some sort of dependency between them.
Yeah, and then we say, okay, we first need to do this before that. So if we have them somewhere tracked, we can indicate that somehow.
Yeah,
I guess, right?
Yeah, we should. I guess what we say, we'll always have an epic from SIG1. We'll have an epic from SIG1 for each thing, and if that's all we need, we'll use that. If we need more, we'll make them.
Yeah. Plus, I think even, I mean, I focus right now on the user story because that was where we have some, let's say, discussions. And I think the sooner we clarify it, I mean, I did some suggestions, but I think we never discussed it in the SIG1. So that's the goal here. But also, for example, not all of the, so for example, we have also task forces in SIG2, right? Where I think the same applies. So for me, this is not, this is applicable to anything, right? Because, so for example, when we, like the SDK, Steven broke it down, whether this is a SIG1 or a SIG2, debatable, I think, right? The same for observability. I think Steven, for both of them, he created the epics as well as a subsequent task and stuff like that, which I think is good as a good practice for anything, right? So it's, I think I started discussing this in the context of the SIG1, SIG2 user stories, but I would advocate that that this is the process we would follow in general.
Yeah, I liked that breakdown that Stephen did as well. I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah. Right. Because anyhow, if you look to how we did SIG2 and release 1 and release 2, we somehow did that, right? So we followed it, although we never really formalized it, we kind of did it organically like that, right? And sometimes we added tasks on the fly because we saw they are not complete and stuff like that, which is okay, right? So but yeah, so as such, then we have that all captured somehow. Okay. So what I would suggest is that we somehow probably document this a little bit. I mean, I would volunteer, but if there is other people volunteering, I'm happy for other people to take a shot at it as well, if there are people interested. Because it's probably good to document shortly. It doesn't have to be a lot of text. At least it's clear.
What exactly you need to document, Wim? Sorry.
Just the processes. How do we capture the new work and how do we follow up and stuff like that? And what we expect from maybe the SIG1 or the people starting of the work. So basically saying we have to create the epics and then the review. So what basically the bullet points that I discussed with a bit of text, probably, right?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it, maybe.
Okay, I appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now to the next topic then is, okay, I think how do we prioritize the work? Because I see us going into various directions, right? So there now we'll have probably a bunch of people working parallel, which is a good thing, but it's also creating some challenges potentially. So then it's, okay, what do we do there?
So the first level of priority should come from SIG architecture, in my view. They should tell us for ORAN, these are the first two top priority stories. And for SA, or in fact, instead of separating like that, they should give us a coherent list. Like these are my top 5 items, like for the release.
Ranked order list?
Yes, ordered list, yeah. So they may give us more than 5, that's fine. They may give us 10, but give that ordered list. Just, you use the right word, yeah. So give us, and then based on that, and then we also have the internal work, right? For example,
yes, and then it's like internal. There is lots of stuff we have to do.
Yeah, you are doing NF to infra stuff that is there,
Yeah.
and then yesterday we talked about providing that abstract interface for the infrastructure orchestration, just like what we did for enough topology. So we need to consider those works, and then also the release things. We want to do some things on the release side too, some automation. We need to consider these things, and also consider their order list, and then go back to them. Like we can really do this much versus. That's the I think that's what I'm thinking. Like SIG architecture gives us the wish list, and then we go back. We take that list, we consider that along with the work that we are planning, and then go back to SIG architecture saying, this is where we stand. I think we had 2 hands raised. Yeah, Tim and Liam.
Yeah, Tim.
First.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to make sure you guys know is that that ranked ordered list of priorities, that the use cases come in at when they come in, right? And so that list of priorities may very well change from time to time. So really, it's the current list of priorities that they're able to rank. So as stuff come in, something may come in and say, hey, this is a lot higher than this other one, right? And so I just want to make sure you guys understand that. Unless we're going to go waterfall, right? We're done with use cases. No more will be considered till the next release, which I don't think what we wanted. You're going to see that be a current lead list, right? As things come up. But they should be able to give you a current list of the current priorities, right? That they know about.
Yeah.
Liam?
Very quickly, but I suppose it's obvious, but I suppose the third thing, the way we prioritize is how much things cost and what people are willing to work on.
Yes, of course. Now, yeah. So this is, see, it's all a bit contentious, all of this in my point, right? Because you can have you can have basically another view of this, right? Which is a completely opposite view is, okay, let those people, so first of all, what I was going to say is that there is, I see I saw use cases in 2 categories at the moment, right? Or even the work in SIG 2 and stuff like that. So one is things that where, for example, there is, I think, 3 of the use cases coming from ORAN at the moment. In all honesty, there's nothing, they are all, let's say, applications on top of what we have in place. So in other words, what they have to do is create new packages and so on and so forth, and create a new operator or something like that, right? So there is very little surgery into the system. So what I'm trying to say is that they can almost run independently, right? So you could, what I was saying is that rather than trying to prioritize, because the problem is, okay, so the people who build the use cases, I'm expecting them, they want them that they will be achieved, right? So one way or another. So the other approach is Bala, which is, okay, we create those epics, let people run, and then we say, okay, here is the deadline. If you don't meet this deadline, out of luck, you go to the next train, right? And as such, you don't create a prioritization. You let them go in parallel. And okay, you probably need to do some checkpoints left, right, and center. But if you are not ready, okay, then you didn't make it.
That's the agile way.
Yeah, correct. So you basically go, so you create epics, you know what's going on. Of course, what is important here is that you manage the dependencies, right? So as I was saying, is like, there are certain use cases which I think they just have to create some packages and maybe an operator that we already, that there are examples of. It's just another use case. Okay, should be fairly independent and let them do it. And if they are ready, okay, we'll take it on. If they are not, okay, then good luck, right? So go to the next tree. It's a completely different view on how we worked so far, but to the people, I mean, the question is, how do we scale in that mode, right? And whether we can coordinate all of that. But on the other hand, to the people that are invested time into it, they probably will like that more than trying to have someone basically say, you cannot do this and that and that and that, right? Okay, this is the extreme way. But
in a way, that model worked quite well de facto in R2, because the SIG and the OAI team didn't really have that much impact on the core of Nepio, and they were more or less able to run independently, and it worked well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. We had to help them left, right, and center, but they figured it out, right? I mean, they found the right people. They got so, and they managed the process one way or another, right? So we helped them. They came to the meetings to say, okay, that doesn't work. Okay, can you help here and that and that and that. But yeah, that's a very different view. But I don't know. And maybe we don't have to, we probably don't have to decide right now, but we should probably think on different flavors.
Yeah, in terms of prioritization, that's a good thing. So I think Tim said, Tim also makes sense. The current street priority of work, that's fine, that comes in. But at some point of time, yeah, we will obviously, it's determined by the capacity, right? I mean, how much?
See, at the end of the day, I agree. Yeah. But so, I mean, if you let it run and they don't manage to get in on time, but then we have to be a bit more strict on what goes in and what doesn't go in, I think, right? So, yeah, because right now,
is this. Yeah, simple one case I can say is, let's say they come up, let's say SIG1 presents us with the existing current list. And let's say even with the existing current list, SIG2 may come back and say, no, we cannot do all this. We can only do 4 of this. So at which point of time, even if the new item comes, what that means is, when a new item comes, one of the items that's already been picked will have to drop out. Again, that negotiation needs to happen. That's the usual scope work.
So in the second model, Bella, they just run in parallel, and if they can achieve both, okay, they will get in both.
Yes, that's fine too. I mean, if other thing we cannot and we should not prevent is, if there are people ready to work on it, and if they want to work, we cannot say no, obviously.
That's the point, right? So that's the problem. Yes. So the point, the problem, or the good thing or the bad thing, it has all kinds of elements, but you let the people figure out on what they work on.
Exactly. Yeah. If a new story comes with a new set of people want to work on it, we have research. I think we should let it happen. Yeah.
Of course, we need to do a bit of coordination, right? So
yes,
because okay, we probably need to have a bit of let's say coordination of like feasibility of some of the things. They should be realistic in my view, right? So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So there should be some feedback on whether this is real and stuff like that. Doesn't mean they cannot work, but maybe it's not advisable that this will make it in R3, right? So like we are discussing, for example, all the port stuff as an example. I mean, doing that in R3 is a challenge, and that's my personal view. Maybe people have different opinion, but there will be. We have to have a bit of realism into the whole conversation, right?
Yes, absolutely. And also the other thing that you said is, yeah, we had to agree as a group, this is the direction that we want to go. This is how we want to solve it. So obviously, if everything is good, this is exactly where Nefia wants to be. This is exactly what Nefia wants to solve. And then that story comes in, people wants to work on it. Absolutely. That's a very happy path situation I'm giving. The other situation is we have a story that's coming in, and that really is not gelling well with the Nefio story. It's not Nefio wants to be, and it's not how Nefio wants to solve the problem. That's where probably we need to have discussions.
Yeah. Okay, Vish, you have.
Yeah. I was just also thinking that we also need to help with estimation. I know we are saying that, hey, something makes it or something does not make it. I mean, I used to remember that, and we need to be cognizant of the fact that we don't take an expert. For example, if Tal or Wim or Steven are an expert on a certain area, you don't want to take their estimates because that's what they'll probably do in that amount of a time. You want to take like a moderate estimate, and apply a factor to it. For example, on Porsche, you leave it to John. John will probably do it in a day. What will take probably somebody like a week and a half because they need to comprehend it. So I find, at least that we need to probably temper those expectations of those estimates. I need to have I know we spoke about realism, being realistic here. So we want to be aware of that. That way, whoever is working on it is not working 80 hours a week to just meet that line, it's not going to help out. And we also need to take into fact that, hey, it's a 40-hour week rather than a 60 or 80-hour week. That's how I felt it. I could be wrong. The two releases that we're working on, I think I'd mentioned it too. So we need to help them. So some of the SMEs need to take on the role of actually helping people working on that with estimates which are realistic rather than being very optimistic. Hey, yeah, if I did this, if I sat continuously for 24 hours, I could get it done. So that is my view. Sorry, I could be wrong, but just trying to bring it up.
Yeah,
That's it.
So
yeah.
I'm very resistant to estimates. I think all of us have worked with agile methodologies, I guess, at some point. I personally hate them. And I feel like these estimates are always wrong and evolve. And
estimate is an estimate.
yeah, they create expectations for managers, but SIG1 is not our manager, right? We're all in this together here. We make no promises, right? I think what SIG1 cares about, or more importantly, what the TSC cares about, is the release cadence, which we keep going back to. Like, will this feature, will this use case make it into the next release, R3, right? And I think what we can say is something will make it. It could be just at the POC level, right? It could be more of a feature. It could be an experimental preview or whatever we want to call it, right? We've done that in the past. I don't think providing estimates is going to be good for us. This will exactly create the kind of anxiety, Vish, that we were talking about, like, 40 hours a week, or, people are volunteering here. It's not their full-time job, right? So they do what they can. And I think SIG1 needs to realize also that we do what we can. And it's going to be done when it's going to be done. And how much will be done will be according to how much fits into that release cadence, right? We can decide, we're doing a feature freeze, so something will be pushed into after, right? And what will be, we're in ongoing conversation with SIG1. So as work progresses and we say, look, it doesn't look like this is going to make it for R3, it'll be pushed to R4. Well, that's okay, right? We do what we can.
Yeah.
And then we can also have a discussion about priorities. If we say, okay, let's say something in observability won't make it for R3. And we say, okay, maybe it's best not to work on this right now and put all our attention to something that will make it to R3, right?
Okay.
So it's all based on an ongoing conversation between SIG1 and SIG2, according to progress, right? Rather than, I think, working on estimates. So more about having the estimate be emergent. We give progress reports, we see how things are going, and and we can reprioritize as necessary. But
I can tell you how it helped me, at least when I actually worked on all the controllers, right? So, I mean, you're right to most part, Tal, but I also want it to be a tool that people can use, because I had not worked on the operator code. I had not looked at it, right? So when I looked at something that probably would have taken John or Wim or you, I mean, just like maybe like 3 days, I put my estimate as 3 weeks, but I actually gave a breakdown of why I'm doing that. Because as somebody from a community contributing to a new piece or a new component, I want to be able to set the expectation that, look, in my estimates, I have actually taken into account that I'll probably need a week to go through some of those tutorials, and then I need another week to set up my dev environment or something like that. I want to be able to do that. So that is how I use, so that I don't actually am all the time awake, spending 80 hours a week, because somebody says that, oh, it took me 3 days, because I've been in a situation where I have been very comfortable in a certain code piece. I say, oh yeah, that should probably take half a day. But this other person, it took him 3 weeks because he has to get all that context, knowledge, and everything. This is to only, well, for whoever is new, they can use this to come and say, hey, this is how I estimate my effort, right? And that will, you're giving them a safe place, and you're going to also help them out. Like, oh, okay, this person who is actually given the estimation with a breakdown, we understand, because if this person comes up to speed, he'll be one of those reviewers or somebody that will add value at some point of time. That is how I was going to use it, but I see your point as well. So you can
I'm in agreement with you. I think what I'm trying to do is actually enforce this, right? I think these kinds of estimates are internal to SIG2, and then we can reprioritize and say, hey, this is too important, maybe let somebody else work on this to get it done quicker. But I don't think we need to report estimates to SIG1, because that will create expectation.
Okay.
That will get them too involved in our work. Internally, we can.
Yes, internally. I was thinking internally, not to. Yeah.
So what do we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we go more for the parallel approach, or like go in parallel and then we'll see what happens? And then, but they should. So with that approach, probably you want to use this meeting to report upon progress, right? Or to report
that's what
upon.
We always do, right?
Yeah, correct. But it means, I mean, if you go in parallel, I mean, that would be. I think there's a number of people who are not yet familiar with that system, right? So that should be then part of the documentation somehow that we do, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably, Wim, if you do the focus groups, then all the work will run in parallel anyway.
Yeah, or we basically say, okay, we can handle, we have a budget of so many focus group in parallel, right? So we have 5 focus groups for release 3, right? That's the other approach.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a mix of it. So so handle it based on focus groups, right?
Yeah. So I mean, are you talking about what was done for release 1?
Yeah.
I mean, see, to a certain extent, yes. I personally liked what we did in R1 more than what we did in R2, in the sense that it also created a bit of a team, in my view, and you basically get new people on board. So it had the ability to take new people with us and get going, right? So if you agree on the focus items and then you build a team around it, it's helping us also to extend the community, I think, right? Because right now, if we don't have that, how do we onboard new people?
Correct.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I like the concept of focus group. The one thing I always, I mean, again, this is me only. The only thing that I felt I was missing there was that I couldn't just follow what was happening there, because the PRs were merged so fast. Even now, I think the same thing is happening, right? I mean, that is where I feel that our scoping, there are some pieces where I like to agree with Tal on, like, hey, some things will have to probably slip out. It's okay. That is where that would be the danger. That's all. I mean, if we can actually, that is why I was always trying to get like, hey, we should, I mean, it might sound like too much. I was saying we need 4 people as reviewers before something gets merged. it was to reinforce the point that we are getting multiple, four people reviewing a PR means 4 people are actually coming up to speed on that, right? Instead of one person who is knowing it, and you go give it, merge it, and then I lost the opportunity to review it, which means I need to spend my weekend in order to come up to speed on that. That is the only thing. I mean, if we can meet in the middle, that'll be great. There is my personal opinion, but again, I could be, maybe the problem is with me there. And I need to probably cut down on how many areas I want to go and review.
Yeah, so the challenge is always when you go to focus group, if you want to be involved in everything, that's going to be a challenge, right?
Correct. I mean, that is where, I mean, I'm only using my OpenStack experience, because some PRs would be lying there for 15 days because they were actually waiting for 2 people to review and other people to provide their comments. The idea was to actually get people up to speed, instead of hey, we are actually, this is a factory and we are being measured on how much we churn out. So it seems we can have a
we can
good of
definitely
both the worlds.
Yeah, we can definitely enforce. I think it's enforced at this point of time. You need to have so many LGTMs and so many approves. The core committer has to approve, and then it needs to have a certain number of LGTMs before it gets merged. I think that is there. So is there anything else here you want us to do, Vish?
Because that is how, I was going to use those kind of data to actually go tell TSC that, hey, we need more companies and more people actually participating here, right? I mean, that way.
We have those in place, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to understand.
It is not always happening that way, right? One LGTM, one approve actually will actually merge it sometimes.
If that's happening, that's an issue that we need to fix. I think we have enforced at least certain number of LGTMs.
Yeah, I think in Nefio core it's 2 LGTMs and 1 approval, I think, for now.
Yeah,
but Liam has his hands.
Yes,
the challenge.
I think we need to clarify that as well. I think it's I'm not entirely sure what even on the documentation repo, for example, I put /LGTM1 and it merged, and it didn't matter on that one because it was only a typos, but they wasn't expecting it to go, we need to probably check that.
I think depending on the repo, I think it's not consistent in my view.
Probably thanks for the feedback, Liam. Probably I will work with I think let me put that in a release thing. I think we need to fix that if that's happening. Yeah.
But so what do you guys propose here? Because we are Fiacra, I think we are getting. Is it okay that you do it next week, or we want to do it now? But
no, I can postpone. But I'll actually. There's no real. Is there a need for a demo? No, probably not. I'll post it on Slack. Just what I have a working example of what I've done. So
I think a demo would be good, Fiacra. At least we can ask you questions.
Maybe we can do it in the SIG 3 meeting.
Yeah, in the release. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And
I
by
think,
the way,
I think it's relevant to this audience. I think it's relevant to this audience as well, just for for an idea around moving to GitHub Actions for testing. I know releases. I don't know where test fits. Does the test fits in release? Does it? I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, Liam. Yeah, it's a bit of a mix.
Yeah, probably. Just maybe if we're starting to review the things coming in from SIG1, we probably should have some sort of a schedule up. It's going to be challenging.
You mean for the epics, Liam?
Yeah, I think for the epics, yeah. I mean,
but I think let them come in, right? So I think my proposal would let them come in. Okay, that means that we will we advocate everybody to give comments and review them, right? And then we will see how it goes, and then we probably need to invite those people or the guys that are, or the team that is going to deal with that, to then come and discuss what they are doing and where they are stuck or how they make progress and stuff like that, right?
Sounds good. Okay.
But so here in this comment, do we conclude or do we propose a certain way right now? So what do you guys think? Work more on focus groups?
So I like the focus groups because of the reasons that you stated. That's also one of the retrospective items, the SIG release. In SIG, in this R2, just like you said, Wim, I think probably we could not engage with more members in the community. So I think probably the focus groups I'm hoping that that may solve that problem as well. It will give newcomers, a chance to take some work as a part of a team, a smaller team, instead of one huge group, and then take some tasks, stories, do it, work in parallel, work in pair programming, things like that. That's what I think. At the same time, it will also give a particular focus for a small set of people. This is exactly our focus. So, but in terms of review and stuff, like we said, it is open to everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyone can review it, everyone can critique it, that's fine. But in terms of execution, I think probably having a focus groups may be a better idea, is what I'm thinking.
Anyone objection for now? Because that means that we have to form them somehow, right?
Yeah.
And I would suggest that how they form each other is up to them, but there should be one or two persons that are then taking the lead or something like that, right? I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Just like the way what we did in R1.
I think we set them up as stuff comes in. It'll probably pan out. When we get to a certain level, we'll know that we're nearing capacity as well.
But sorry for maybe it's a misunderstanding, but does that mean then that PRs that go in can only be reviewed or should only be reviewed by people on those work groups? Yeah, but sorry for getting contentious on this, but in terms of reviewing PRs, I would gladly review anybody's PR, right?
Correct. That doesn't prevent anything. What we are basically saying, Fiacra, with the focus group. By the way, from my point of view, test improvement can be a focus group.
Sure.
Just to be clear, but the review of the PRs is not limited to the focus group. I mean, anyone can review any PR.
Absolutely.
What we are trying to do with the focus group is basically create a team around a certain focused area. Let's go for it. Let's say, I mean, I take two extreme. One is ORAN, right, which is probably a big one. The other one is basically test improvements, right? So it's the other extreme. And probably we have SDK and observability. I mean, you already see which are the topics that we somehow have, right? And these are the ones that, and then you can hook yourself into the focus group. I'm expecting those people to have their meetings, right? So we can, as they move along, right? And then, let them run, right? But we should probably say, okay, limit, because we should have a view on the, that's then the other contentious problem probably is, do we limit or do we control the focus group and stuff like that? Maybe in the beginning, yes, but at some point you can also let go, right? I think it's good to start limited and then, sorry, go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, one thing I also want to emphasize is, you also mean this, Wim, and when we, within the focus group, that means, I mean, they're focusing on that. It doesn't mean that anybody can join, obviously, at any point of time, if you want to work on anything. So I think there is nothing restricting in terms of movement or work, what you want to do, whether you want to review. It is just, like we want to, I was thinking, that maybe if we do this, that may give a better focus for a small set of people to execute on a particular task. At the same time, that may also help us, bring on new members and put them into groups. Ask them to join the groups, whatever they're interested in. So that way we can grow the community as well. That was the whole intention.
Okay. So then the thing that we have to discuss is identify is what are the focus groups, right?
Yeah.
Or would it be based on the epics?
looks like that. The big 3 ticket items coming from SIG 1 is service assurance.
It will be ORAN, I
and
guess.
ORAN, service assurance, modeling.
But modeling is probably less for us, I guess, right? So it's probably
modeling. It may be modeling. The thing is, if we create an abstract model, for example, let's say as a part of modeling exercise, we came up with the abstract model for some infrastructure creation. Then probably we may have to change what we have today. Things like that. Yeah.
But we have the SDK, we have observability, right?
Yes, exactly. Observability.
And then there's probably a few items that we have from our list, right? From our team.
Yeah.
That we have to add. But this is not, this is just to give you, this is not by any means concrete, but I just wanted to get a sense of what they are right now.
Yeah.
And then we track them based on these items, I guess, right?
Yeah, because if you see these very widely different topics.
Yes. Now, at the moment, ORAN, if I'm honest, the most focus on ORAN is actually consuming the system as is, right? So with other stuff. This one is a very different one. I mean, this is very, that's building. So there is a lot of work here, right? And there,
In ORAN, there is slight work in terms of slight change. There may be some service that we need to write.
For the workload cluster, maybe, right? So, but
not in the workload, on the management cluster. For example, the O2 IMS endpoint, if you were to be the enable for OCloud, I think most of it is intent based, but the triggering point is going to be based on a REST call. So the way I understand from a previous meeting, I think that was the discussion we had in our previous meeting. The SMO, the FUCOM part of the SMO will make a REST call with certain pointers to the IMS service written in the nephew. Again, that service may come from OSC or whatever. And then using that, the nephew will look at the pointers, look at upstream repo, clone whatever is needed, and it's going to do whatever it always does. And then we also need to make sure the status of that call is updated within that IMS service. So there is some work in maybe some minimal work, I would say, and that we need to do on the management cluster side.
Yeah, do we need a management cluster focus group and maybe a Porsche one?
Yeah, correct. So, but so there will be other topics, others. So I didn't. Port. Yeah. I mean, I just listed these as an example.
We shouldn't set them up beforehand anyway. I think we should do them kind of on demand. So.
Yeah, correct. So they might come and go or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Correct. All right, so we are running out of time. We didn't discuss the POCs, but would the POCs not be handled in the same way, right? So POCs is probably part of the epic, right? So if the epic is a POC, is that okay?
I feel like that's a big topic, and I think we need to discuss.
We probably need to. Okay, next week. Yeah. Okay.
So, is everything a POC? That's the thing also I'm getting.
Okay, that's probably the discussion. We have to.
Yeah, if you look at those items.
I mean, that's what we would advocate, right? We start with it as a POC. I mean, that would be the proposal. But okay, let's discuss that next time, right? So at least, I appreciate the feedback. Yeah. So thanks all.
We don't want to treat everything as a POC. We probably want to use it for mainly like, reaffirming our epics or stories or acceptance criteria. Otherwise it'll just get shoved into the release. So Bala.
Yes. That's the challenge that we will have.
I was saying that in jest.
I know. Because that I've seen in elsewhere in other projects being done. Oh yeah, it's a POC. It works now. Yeah, let's just shove it in now. and nobody gets a chance to look into it. So
Yeah, agree. But okay, we have to give and take a little bit of each, right?
Yeah. So I think
All right.
probably looks like one action item for me is it looks like there is an inconsistency of LGTMs, number of LGTMs on repos. So probably we need to fix that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but let's bring that up on Monday on the SIG3 maybe. Bala?
SIG3, I may be out. Let's see. I
Okay,
think
but I'll add it at the list. I'll
at
add
least thank you.
in
Yeah,
the agenda.
we'll ask, need to add Rado too. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
As
All right.
Google, do you have holiday on Monday? Tal?
I think that was gone.
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
Yeah, we do. I was just checking.
we do. We
Yes.
do have Monday off. Yes.
Okay, we do have Monday. Yeah, there is in some parts it's Monday is holiday for us.
Okay,
So
that's
Not for Red Hat, but yeah.
we
By the way, in the
celebrate
agenda you have
all the wonderful presidents that we've had over the years.
nice. By the way, you have 2 February 12th in your agenda, Bala.
Oh, okay. I'll fix it. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks everybody. We went a bit over time, but we'll continue discussing some of the issues for next week. I do intend to take the whole hour, so we might push some things later on. Well, we'll figure it out next week. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tal.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That's everyone. Goodbye.